Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Here.
Polika?
Here.
Piana?
Here.
And Mayor Coulter.
Here, yes, thank you. We have a full house this evening. Next item of business would be the approval of the agenda. What's council's pleasure on the agenda this evening?
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Council, I have a couple last-minute changes. I'd like to request removing item 6D from the consent agenda.
6D?
6D.
I'm sorry, that's 6C.
C, that's okay.
6D.
Or no, it was 6D.
6D?
The sponsorship agreement, yeah. We expect to reintroduce this item at the next council meeting.
Okay.
And I would also request the council consider moving item 7F from the regular agenda up above item 7C.
Move it up past B, between B and C.
Yes.
All right. Dan, is that acceptable to you? You made the motion.
Yes.
All right.
Support.
Is there support? Yep. Any discussion on the agenda? All right. Marnie, would you call the roll?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. Moving on now to presentations. We have just one presentation on the agenda tonight, and that is the Property Assessed Clean Energy District presentation. And Michelle, you're going to do that presentation? Great.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
So tonight we have Andy Levin and Corey Connolly of Lean & Green, Michigan, to present the PACE District, or as you said, Property Assessed Clean Energy. Just to introduce the topic, the PACE District is something that the state legislature created to help promote energy efficiency and renewable energies and that sort of thing to commercial businesses and property owners. It provides a different funding mechanisms for property owners to basically I'll let Lean & Green Michigan talk about the specifics of it, but basically the cost of these projects can get put into the property assessment, and I'll let them do all the specifics of how that's funded. But we've been working basically with Lean & Green Michigan. They created this organization they basically created a statewide district to help with the administration of the PACE districts. So taking the administration away from municipalities and making it a little bit easier. And they basically also are able to, with the statewide district, collect resources and basically allow a kind of consolidation, basically, so we can use the resources that they have, being attorneys and developers and whatnot. So they'll talk a little bit more to that. We also have Chris Johnson tonight, who we've been working with Lean & Green Michigan on a project that might fit the bill for a PACE district. So with that, let's see, Andy.
Right on cue,
Yes.
Andy Levin arrives.
So let him present, and then we'll bring up Chris to talk about his project a little bit, if you'd like, and then we can have you ask any questions you might have.
That'd be great.
And then after that, just we are then, as staff, we think this is a great project to move forward with, and if council agrees, then we would bring back the topic to the next meeting and ask for a resolution of intent to move forward with the program with Lean & Green Michigan. So with that, Andy.
Excellent.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members, great to see you all. Well, it's really exciting to be in Ferndale to talk about PACE and Lean & Green Michigan. We're trying to help property owners all over the state reduce their energy costs, and Ferndale, there's a lot of great businesses in Ferndale that can take advantage of this. So I don't know, do you all see this on your screens, or how does this work? So you're all high there. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is PACE, first of all? PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy, and it's basically about brokering long-term financing so businesses can undertake energy improvements profitably, making their business more efficient and having positive cash flow to plow back into their operations. As a public policy matter, having been in the state economic development area, I can tell you a lot of the incentives are all vanishing. Local governments don't have much to offer. PACE is an economic development incentive you can give to every business in Ferndale that costs no taxpayer money. It's just about letting them use the special assessment property tax tool, essentially, to make long-term financing work for clean energy projects. That's what it's about. In terms of background, you can do this because the state of Michigan passed a statute in December of 2010, and it covers commercial, industrial, and multifamily property, not single-family property. Our legislature decided not to include single-family property. So it's basically any for-profit or not-for-profit private building. It gives our statute affords flexibility on financing arrangements, which is good. It allows up to 100% financing of the project. It requires consent from a bank if there's a mortgage on the property, which I think is a great thing. It's sort of a conservative thing to make sure everybody's on board and lined up to do it. And PACE projects also make a lot of sense for the bank. So, you know, it's something that works well for everybody. And our statute allows municipalities to work together, hence our ability to do Lean and Green Michigan as a sort of a statewide idea. And by way of further background, 31 states and D.C. have now passed PACE statutes, even though it only came into existence in 2008. So it's sort of spreading around the country very fast. And just FYI, we're talking about the very reddest states, the very bluest states, Pacific to the Atlantic, Canadian border to Mexican border. The last states to adopt PACE included Arkansas, Utah, Rhode Island, and Texas. So I think Rick Perry was the last governor to sign PACE into law. So it's it's basically not a political thing. It's just pro-business. Who can take advantage of it? So the owner of any commercial property. Really, the thing is, it takes a project of a couple $100,000 to make PACE work practically. So it's basically, it doesn't mean a big business, but anybody who uses quite a bit of energy is eligible in a private business and private nonprofits. So churches, hospitals, private schools, and colleges. You can't use it on public buildings because you can't charge property tax buildings to yourself or your superior, larger governments, and no private houses. So that's it. And what can you finance with PACE? You can finance an unbelievable range of improvements to buildings. Any energy efficiency improvement, any water efficiency improvement, almost any renewable energy improvement. That's sort of the range. And you can finance 100% of the project, and you can refinance anything you can finance. So if somebody did something last year and you pass this in the coming weeks, they say, hey, I want to get some cash for my business. I'll finance this through PACE. Here's a more detailed list for you to look at, but it's really just a catalog of energy efficiency measures. The key thing is at the end it says anything else approved as a utility cost-saving measure by the participating municipality, and the list is just indicative. It's not meant to be exhaustive. There are two exclusions in the list of renewable areas, neither of which probably applies to anything in Ferndale, but hey, what the heck, it's no incinerators, probably because the environmentalists didn't like the Detroit incinerator, and no digesters. We have no idea why digesters were excluded. We're going to get them put back in. We're sitting here in the middle of Metro Detroit. The last county to join Lean and Green Michigan was Montcalm County. We have many rural counties in. They've got a lot of farmers, and we want to let them save energy by using digesters. So, all right. So, but why is this? In a way, why are we sitting here? Why is this an important public policy tool? And the reason is there's a big problem. There's a market imperfection, essentially. If you own a big building and you could be wasting 30–40% of your energy spend, and you could eliminate it. The problem is, to do a comprehensive retrofit like that is likely to take 10 or 12 years to pay back. If you just paid cash on the barrel, you'd break even in 8 years, 10, 12, whatever. you're a business in America. You don't do something like that. You can't. You have shareholders, you have an owner, you have a CFO, whatever. Somebody telling you you don't do stuff that takes that long to pay back. PACE fixes that problem. The property owner takes on a special assessment with the city of Ferndale. As a property tax obligation, that's different than any kind of normal mortgage or something. First of all, it's enforced by the county in the event of delinquency. And so, and secondly, it runs with the land. The owner can sell their property anytime during the PACE lien, no problem. The new owner gets all the improvements and they pick up the remainder of the payments. So these two things totally change the way financing can work. A commercial loan is typically for business is usually limited to 3 to 5 years. If you do the kind of leasing stuff that sometimes happen in energy, the interest rates tend to be quite high, but they might go out 7, 8, 9 years. None of it touches what's necessary for these kind of comprehensive retrofits. And whereas PACE, this is not y'all putting out any money. This is a private lender, but still, they're the beneficiary. They're written into the special assessment agreement as the beneficiary. So they'll lend money at a fixed interest rate for 10 to 20 years, and bingo, that project that takes 12 years to pay back, fine, you finance it over 15, 16 years. Now the energy savings are greater than the payments, and so it's a 100% financing and a cash flow positive deal for the property owner. In addition, our statute requires that any project over $250,000, the contractor has to guarantee the energy savings to the property owner. So that's sort of an additional sort of muscle in the statute that's protection for the property owner. Okay, so that's what PACE is. And briefly, why do Lean and Green Michigan, or what the heck am I doing here? Just running around the state in this way to try to spread PACE, a little Johnny Appleseed thing that we're doing. And the idea is, we didn't think it was going to take hold, really, unless we did it in a public-private partnership way, in a sort of cooperative way. The first big point is, before this, the way local governments got PACE is they paid somebody, often a couple $100,000, even $1 million or more. Local governments around the country have paid some contractor to come in, what is PACE, create the district, run the program. I didn't see that happening in Michigan. Our local governments don't have money. So we said, okay, fine. We're creating the statewide program, Lean and Green Michigan. We'll run the program, and we'll just get compensated out of administrative fees on each project. And it costs no taxpayer money ever. And also, there's no, you don't sign a contract with me. You're just voting to join this public-private partnership. I have no, you could vote the next meeting to leave anytime. There's no obligation, essentially. And so you basically, there's no risk for the government. You don't put in any money. You don't make any commitment. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, at first I thought that our biggest companies were going to be the first in. So I talked to Ford and GM and Dow and Friedman and Farman, a lot of big companies. And they all said, hey, Andy, Ann Arbor had created a PACE statute. It's the only one that has created a program outside of Lean and Green Michigan. Oh, you think this is so great? I was with the state when we passed it, so I had some ownership over this law. Well, let's say 30 places do what Ann Arbor did, and each create their own different PACE program with their own complex rules, and you think we would use that? We'd have like a full-time lawyer to figure out all these different programs. So that really clicked for me, and I said, okay, the statute lets you cooperate with every other local government in Michigan with for-profit and non-profit partners explicitly right in the statute. Let's just create one big efficient market. We really don't add any requirements that aren't in the statute. It's just what's required. And let everybody cooperate to create one big market. It's better for property owners who might own properties across jurisdictions. It's better for the contractors who want to do work. If you're an HVAC company in Berkeley or something, you want to do a project in Ferndale. You want to do a project in Mount Pleasant. Wherever you can get work, you want to do work, right? So one set of rules around the state works better for everybody. And the third big factor, in addition to like the public-private partnership and the statewide one market, is financing the deals with private capital. When you pass this, you'll have the right to issue bonds to finance PACE projects. And you know what? If you want to issue bonds to finance PACE project, I'll work with you. And God bless you. It's wonderful. However, most local governments don't. And the bonds, by the way, PACE bonds cannot be backed by the full faith and credit of the municipality by law. They're in the whole country. So they're kind of cool. But I don't see it happening, honestly. So we have the PACE lenders in the United States all super eager to participate in Lean and Green Michigan. PACE is a great, there's sort of a lot of money available for it because it's basically a new long-term government secured debt obligation. And there's a couple kinds of institutions in this country that have an appetite for that that's way beyond anything we could do, namely insurance companies and pension funds. They need as much of it as they can get to put on their balance sheet against what some actuary says your life is, your career, whatever. So there's a lot of private capital out there, and we're bringing it to bear for projects in Ferndale and around the state. This is a little bit about our company. We really, now at this point, we really have hit critical mass. We've got 10 counties and 3 cities in the program already. It's growing fast. Montcalm came in 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow, 2 more decide, take their final vote. If they, it's local governments, so you never know, but that's their plan in Bay County and Pleasant Ridge, neighboring jurisdiction here. So we're moving it around the state, and it's a cost-effective way to get it done. Here's a map of our jurisdictions. We really, and it mirrors the country in the same way. We have our biggest, most urban county like Wayne, but others like, Genesee and Saginaw and Ingham and Washtenaw. But we also have Huron County and Grand Traverse County and Ingham, and Eaton County and Montcalm, very rural counties. So at this point, we've got 44% of the state population in the program, and we're expanding every month. Couple examples, or one anyway here, right nearby. Star Lincoln, the car dealership over at Vitel 12. Not some company looking for publicity. Not, this is like a family-owned car dealership. They're very, traditional. And by the way, if I can call out the owner because he just passed away, Hoot McInerney, was great, Michigan guy. His family still owns it. So they are doing a project about $500,000. It's not a big car dealership, right? But if you think about what it takes to light a car parking lot, if you think about all the energy in the auto body shop and in the regular repair shop, it's a lot. So they're spending about $500,000, and they're getting about $1 million of savings with a 20% ROI. They're doing LED lighting inside and out, new HVAC equipment, controls, weatherization, new compressors for the shop. Bay doors are going to open and close in 3 seconds. I bought my Mercury Mariner hybrid there that has 218,000 miles on it, which they give me a hard time about every time I go to see them. It takes those doors open, trundle open and closed in their repair shop in maybe 30, 40 seconds. It wastes so much energy. The new ones are going to close in 3 seconds. Cool things like that you don't even think about as energy. So anyway, it's a great project, pure energy efficiency. Out of every dollar in the project, 87 cents is paying back the PACE lien, and 13 cents is just positive cash flow for the company. So second example in Michigan, actually the headquarters of our energy regulating agency, the Michigan Public Service Commission. It's a public agency, but they're in a private building. They got a new headquarters. It's a story I'll tell you if you want to hear about it, but it's a great project. The agency went to the owner and said, hey, the tenant essentially happens to be the state of Michigan, but they pay the utility bills. In all your industrial buildings over here mostly, a lot of your retail buildings, the tenants pay the utility bills. So the tenant went to the owner and said, would you do this thing? He said yes. It's another about $500,000 project. And it's just worth noting that PACE not only solves that general problem of how do you finance the project, it also solves a split incentive problem where an owner may not really care that much about energy bills because they don't pay them. But here, they can pass on the cost and the benefit to the tenant, so they have an advantage doing it. We have about $55 million of serious proposals that have been made at this point. It grows every week. We're likely to do a big mall in Washtenaw County. It might be the next one we announce. There's just a lot of different projects that people are talking about. And, the opportunity in the energy efficiency market is just humongous. Most of our buildings are highly inefficient, and typically we waste 30% of the energy spent in our buildings, and most of them haven't been touched. So it's huge. As an economic development policy, this is I mean, you know, people have a win-win or win-win-win. I mean, this is so many wins. You know, let's start with Governor Snyder. You know, if anybody remembers when he first ran for office, he said, "I'm not for picking winners, I'm for economic gardening." This is the ultimate economic gardening policy because it benefits whatever business you got in Ferndale, that's who it benefits. Whoever owns the business property. It really does sort of improve the business climate for the owners. For property owners, it's just straight to their bottom line. They can do it just because they want to save money. And then if they are into green PR, reputational benefits, whatever, obviously having the greenest shopping mall or warehouse or whatever is great too. The tenants that are employees get a more comfortable building. There's going to be lower turnover, less expensive to operate if they're a tenant that, you know, is a store or something. Contractors, they're the biggest constituency for this. The whole world of HVAC companies, solar companies out there, they cannot get the bigger, more comprehensive projects because there hasn't been a way to finance it. So this is great for them. Wednesday, we've got a training for another 30 people in Williamston. We've trained already 100 contracting folks from 60 different companies in how to take advantage of this market. That's sort of one of the things we do when you join Lean and Green Michigan. For citizens, it's about you know, getting more people to work. I mean, how many tradespeople can we put to work doing these retrofits? You're talking electricians, plumbers, carpenters, laborers across the board working on these projects. For the city, it improves the business climate. You're on the cutting edge of greening. You're improving your tax base over time because hopefully you won't turn around and raise the taxes on a property that does this right away. But when they sell that building, it's worth more. It's more up to date. It's more efficient. It's got renewables, whatever. And of course, some of us do realize that the planet's frying. We have to do something about it. It's a huge emergency. We're not anywhere close to doing what we need. This is a concrete step you can do. Every project helps in that way. So in terms of next steps, as was mentioned, you have to pass a resolution of intent. You have to hold a public hearing and pass a final resolution of adoption. The public hearing and the resolution of adoption can be at the same meeting. And then there's no waiting period or anything. And as you'll hear, we already have a project that seems like a great idea in Ferndale. And we'll be here to help as many people use it as they can. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, or not.
I have a question specifically. Sorry. I was wondering if you could provide some insight as to why Oakland County hasn't created a district for the county yet and why we're going at it piecemeal city by city.
You know, I think it's partly, well, the true answer is I don't really know, but we are working hard to get Oakland County to join, and we hope Oakland County will join. The statute allows any city, township, or village and any county to create a PACE program. And by the way, more than one PACE program. You could create many if you wanted. I don't know why you would, but so a little bit of it is historical accident. Southfield was really into this idea. They were the first on June 25th, because one of my college-age kids was home, and after he got out on June 25th, 2012, and I missed his birthday because that's when they passed their resolution. We went well into the night. So June 25th, 2012, Southfield became the first jurisdiction to join the program. And then Rochester Hills was the third. You know, so that sort of, and then Oakland County said, well, let's see what happens. I actually talked to somebody from Oakland County this morning, and they're like, a lot of our cities are really doing this, so maybe we ought to take a look at it. I don't know if they will or when they will, but I certainly hope they will at some point.
Okay. Michelle, you have,
Well, we can hear from Chris Johnson to maybe talk about his project. One thing that Andy didn't really go into is the specifics of how projects are established, and each project is actually analyzed to see if the cost of the project will result in a benefit of the energy efficiency costs actually have to exceed the cost of the project. I'm sure Andy could go on and on about that. There's a whole process. I don't know if Chris might want to talk a little bit more about it. You know, I'll know Chris Johnson from Woodward Avenue Brewery, but he has got an exciting new project that might be a PACE project.
all right.
Cue the music, please. I don't really have any music. Chris Johnson, Woodward Avenue Brewers. Thanks for letting me be here to speak. I have a finance degree, but still after a while I hear this stuff and it just sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher. Not you, Andy, but it's like goes over my head and it takes me a few times to really understand it, and I'm looking, what's the catch, what's this all about? But as Andy, he explained it really, really well, but it's still a lot to kind of at least wrap my head around. But it really is a win-win-win, as many wins as you want to put on their situation, because it doesn't create any money. There's no, here's some money to do this because we think you're a good guy, because this is green. Don't worry about paying it back. It's nothing at all like that. What it is, in simple terms, for me, real-life example, my wife and I are building a production facility on Saratoga so we can make beer and can it and put it wherever we want to put it, stores, et cetera. And we've got this amount of money that we can do this project with, and for lack of better terms, I'll call it our life savings. So we've got this life savings, and when you go to a bank and you want to do something with that money, it can only go so far, and a project of any size has tons of costs associated with it. With PACE, you can take all the things that you want to do that might qualify for the PACE program. For us, such things as a solar array on the top of our building, geothermal, and other non-sexy things like LED lighting and insulation. All these things can go into this PACE program financing. And so that leaves our life savings over here to, really help pay for the other things that we need. And so we've got one loan to the bank over there, and then we'll have this other loan that essentially that comes through the PACE program. And the great thing is, there's no risk to the city, as Andy was saying, because if we go out of business, it stays with the building and it gets paid off that way. So the loan always gets paid back, and hopefully it's me paying it back over the next 20 years. But if I didn't have PACE as an option, I wouldn't be able to do things like a solar array. I wouldn't be able to do geothermal, because that chunk of money that I have just doesn't cover all those things. I have to just spend it on what I need to get my business going. So with this PACE financing, I can look at things that might take 8, 12, 15 years to pay back, and because this loan extends over that amount of time, it works for PACE, and then it also works for me. So it's a really great program. I'd love to see Ferndale follow in the footsteps of Southfield and Rochester Hills as far as leading the charge goes. But now it fits with Ferndale, and I might be the first one up here talking about actually utilizing the program, but there are so many businesses, I'm sure, that could benefit from something like this. And as Andy said, I think it makes us look greener and more forward-thinking, and it improves the buildings. It just does a lot of things that are really great. So that's my take on it.
Anyone have questions of Chris while he's standing there?
No, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
I have some comments, if I may.
Please.
Thank you for coming tonight and presenting, and thank you to Michelle for bringing this forward. I wanted to connect some dots about how we got here. The Property Assessed Clean Energy Program has been on a City Council's goals to create the program for the last year or so. And so it's been our intention to create this. And so I thank Ms. Chris Johnson for helping us push us over the finish line and getting the PACE program completed. It's also been on the target for the Environmental Sustainability Commission to create the PACE program as well. So this is an initiative that they've been wanting to pass on behalf of the community. But I would also say that going back on to Chris's win-win-win, this really is a win for the community, a win for the businesses, and a win for progress for sustainability in our community. And this is sort of, to me, another program that we're bringing to the community that was similar to the Better Buildings for Michigan, the home energy audit program that was available for homeowners for a year to upgrade their, do an energy audit and then upgrade their homes to improve the energy efficiency. And since buildings are the #1 emitter of CO2, it is our interest to lower that in our community, or the impact of CO2s in our community. So I feel like this is just the trajectory that we've been moving in, and this is just another good program that obviously makes total complete sense, even if LED lighting is not energy efficiency sexy, but geothermal is energy efficiency sexy. This is just a good thing for our business owners.
Okay. Other comments? Maybe just one question, and I'm very supportive of this program. Andy, you and I have talked about it over the last year or so, and I echo what Melanie said. To the extent that there is some risk, I assume all loans have some risk. Is that ultimately borne by the private mortgage, or not mortgage, private lenders?
Lender, yeah.
I mean,
you could look at sort of three scenarios. So let's say you do, the risk is tied up with a default or someone going out of business and stopping to pay their property taxes, right?
Right.
So if the property if the company goes out of business, the property sheriff's sale, they try to, seize it, all that. First of all, and I don't know how much you want to get into all this like negative stuff, but
yeah.
If one thing that's interesting to me anyway, as a policy kind of nerd, is that we're generally keeping the PACE projects out of the whole revolving fund thing between the county and the city, partly because a lot of the PACE lenders are like national, and they're like, oh, you're going to make us whole during it, but then we might have to pay some money back. Just pay us at the end. If we get some money, just give it to us. So it's simplified in that way. But let's say, so if there's a default, one possibility is you sell the property for full back taxes or more. Then the lender just gets their pro rata share, and the new owner pays what's left. The other possibility is that you sell it for less than that. Then they don't get they just get their pro rata share of the proceeds. So they lose a little bit. And, arguably there's a little bit of loss for others. So like Oakland Community College gets a little bit of the zoo. And, so I guess if there's a little PACE tranche, the others might get a little bit less of their pro rata. But they may actually, the sale for less than the full may have been more because of the PACE project. So you can't, it's not negative. And then if it, sort of worst case scenario, like you don't sell it at all, the lender's just out.
Yeah.
They get their pro rata share of nothing.
That's
and so,
what I assume,
then they just, so they're taking a risk. The thing is though, that it's modified so much. Having a tax lien as a security is so great for them that they'll lend this way. I do think though, it's worth pointing out, the real consequence of that, of their risk is, and this is worth saying, I should have said it, don't think of PACE as a panacea for like at-risk properties. It's a PACE lender's going to underwrite hard, so they're not going to probably lend money. So at our training on Wednesday, when we do work with these contractors, we give them an example of like an apartment complex in a city that's sort of 45% occupied, and there's a lot of debt on it, and they're thinking, oh, well, if we green it, we'll fill it up. I mean, it sounds good, right? But they probably won't get the PACE loan. So the lender bears the risk, and to me, the downside actually is we can't help everybody with PACE projects that we'd like to because the lenders won't give the money. And actually, if you want to know my opinion about this, like when local governments might issue bonds, I think after we've done 100 or 200 projects, Wayne County may say, hey, they're in, as a county. We have a lot of depressed property values in our county. Those people aren't getting loaned. They aren't getting PACE loans because, it doesn't work for these lenders. We're going to issue bonds because they should get to participate too. So to me, the risk is more not being able to help as many people as you'd like. That's the main one.
Yeah. Good. Other questions? Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your
Great to see you all.
presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. All right. I believe that's our only presentation this evening. So the next item of business would be call to audience. Call to audience is a half hour now and more time if we need it at the end of the meeting for you to speak on anything that's not on the agenda, because we'll give you an opportunity to speak to those things that are on the agenda at that time. But anything that you would like to say, up to 3 minutes. Give us your name and address if you don't mind, and welcome.
Martha Sunplanter, Library Bookstore, 169 West 9 Mile Road. I'm here for the group FAIR, and I'm reading a statement by one of the members. The Ferndale Association of Invested Residents, which is FAIR, joins dozens of local businesses in strong opposition to the 360 project. This type of development is not the vision of the majority of Ferndalians and what they have for our community, and we believe it threatens the very essence of the community and livelihood. Ferndale has a unique character and dynamic that is incomparable to other communities that this project seeks to mirror, namely Midtown, Royal Oak, and Birmingham. The developers have failed to provide a plan that meets the needs and desires of the community, and we are disappointed with Council's decision if you decide to extend the exclusivity agreement. The voices of the community are being ignored and dismissed in the name of development, and we find this dangerous. A project of this scale should not just give the appearance of community input. Its veritability and implementation should be decided upon by the community, who will ultimately feel the effects. Let the people decide. Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, that is on the agenda, so if for other folks, that's, yep, I understand. Rabbi, good evening.
My name is Rabbi Herschel Finman. My address is 23610 Gardner in Oak Park. I am representing an organization called Jewish Ferndale. I appeared before this august body in December to appeal to your sense of justice and dignity to allow us to erect a menorah on public property, and you allowed us, and the day after we did erect it, and we had a celebration which the mayor was part of, that attracted more than 100 Ferndalians to participate in the first public Hanukkah lighting in Ferndale. Last week, we had a celebration for the holiday of Purim at the Ferndale Library. 50 people attended from Ferndale. About 3 weeks ago, we found a property about 100 yards east of this building on this side of the street, and we put down a deposit on it. We then approached the zoning board because we wanted to put there a center, something which would be a showcase piece for the city of Ferndale, a place which would be an attraction for young people, a place where people could feel at home, a place where people would be able to find educational projects, a place that would bridge the various communities. And unfortunately, the zoning board knocked us back because unfortunately, that building at 522 East Ferndale, East 9 Mile, is zoned commercial. In my memory, I remember that building being empty. I remember a discount shoe store there that sold $9 shoes. I remember a discount florist shop that reeked of cigarettes. That building is now empty, again, and has been for many, many months. We had already contracted the help of an architect. There's an expression in the Talmud that a friend has a friend. A foundation in Columbus heard that we were hoping to build this center, and came in and said, we will make that building green. We want to make it a showcase piece. We want it to be a place where people will want to come to Ferndale. But unfortunately, today I told the owners we have to withdraw our deposit. We cannot put the building there because the owner will not allow us 3 or 4 or 6 more months to deal with the zoning appeals board. And I would like to bring to your attention, again, we quoted this before, and I've quoted it many times, and I tell people all the time, that 6 or so years ago, then Governor Granholm said that Ferndale is a cool city. Let me tell you, You would never know it by looking at me now. In 1969, I had hair down to my shoulders. I had pink bell bottoms and rib-net shirts, and I was cool. If I appeared to you today in that outfit, you would not call me cool. Cool needs to be maintained. And I'm looking to appeal again to the sense of this board that the downtown area of Ferndale not be a place where it's very simple to put a bong shop, a tattoo parlor, but not a place where people can go and be comfortable and grow as human beings. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Not quite as tall as him. I'm Crystal Paxmeyer, and I own the Oakland County 115 News. Kind of a technical matter more than anything else. I see on the consent agenda there is a resolution for proclamation, and I've talked about this before. I just believe that proclamations should be public and should be read. If it's something that is going to be strong enough to be proclaimed, we should proclaim that. So I would like you to please pull it or read it or whatever has to be done. Thank you.
I think it was our intent to read it, but yes, thank you, Crystal. Anyone else like to address council this evening?
Hello, Brian Presley, 305 West Troy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Speaking on behalf of my family today, obviously I don't support the extension of the one-year agreement. I can't stay to hear it be played out, but I'll go on the assumption that it may be extended today. I don't support it for some of the reasons that I've heard. They gave their presentation of other things they changed, and they lowered it from 10 stories to whatever it is, 6. That really doesn't impress me, because negotiating 101 is ask for way more than what you want and then cut it in half, and you get it, and then you look reasonable. So that one of the things you guys keep saying in the paper that, well, they came down a lot. Still doesn't mean much to me. The other thing, the parking study really didn't demonstrate to me that we needed parking. What it demonstrated to me were the people coming here don't want to park further out where those parking structures are. So I understand that's an injustice towards the individuals who are coming down here to get hammered at night, but it's something you just got to deal with sometimes. That being said, the extension of the agreement, I'm speaking for myself here, no organization that I'm involved with. The extension of the agreement is just that. It can be thrown away at any time. Whatever electoral offices are up in November, I don't know, I think maybe the mayor and some other seats, that election starts tomorrow. 360 is what we are going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner over the next 8 months. Monday through Sunday, we're going to be talking to individuals about it. I never really knew about that when I first voted a couple years ago when I got here and voted for all of you. Maybe it's my fault for not looking into it, but I feel like there just wasn't a lot going on about it back then. That ain't going to be the case this time. Everybody's going to know about it. Now we know what the plans are, so there's no, what's the word you used? Premature responses about it. So I welcome that debate. I enjoy extemporaneous public debate and speeches, and I'm sure all of you do as well. One of the methods in which we're going to do this is called community integration, which let me know when I hit 3 minutes too, Mayor, is community integration, which I'm not sure, I really haven't gotten a lot from you guys. When I served this nation and I got dropped off in the middle of nowhere in Africa in the Peace Corps, I realized on day one, wow, the lives of females here blow. What is causing that to be horrible? It is the patriarchal societies of the men that dominate it, culturally, socially, religiously, economically. You have to go at the root of it. So you go around to every single stakeholder and you inform them that you are going to change what's happening. And that's what I and others intend to do. Every business owner, every person living by it, we're going to go knock on their door and we're going to have a discussion with them. And I'm going to suggest for those who are for re-election,
And you're at your...
Thank you. That you do the same this summer. And I look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Hi. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Lisa Sennett.
Hi.
Thanks for letting me speak. I have to leave at 8 o'clock because I have a 10th grader at the high school. She's an honors student. She's in the secondary honors program, and she's in the winning robotics team and the winning marching band. When I'm asking to speak that you do not extend their negotiating rights, I moved here from Detroit in 2009 because Detroit was doing a terrible job with their public schools. And I picked Ferndale over Berkeley and Royal Oak because of the music program in the schools and because of how cool Ferndale is. My senior is the Ferndale's National Merit Scholar, and she's being offered a lot of college scholarships, a lead scholarship at University of Michigan. And they are completely adding to the community of Ferndale Public Schools. They are great kids, and we are here because Ferndale is cool, and the schools are being held together. And I don't think if that type of strange, ugly, suburban, disgusting building was there, I would not have been attracted to Ferndale at all. And I think that we should consider the public schools and what would a new place like that do for, are there going to be families that might send their kids to the schools? I think a lot of people in this room probably went to a viable public school, and I think that Ferndale needs to have strong public schools, and that the buildings that come in here should support families, not just people who can afford fancy apartments in a hip town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda are items that we enact in one motion unless something is pulled from the consent agenda, and we have, of course, already pulled item C. So let me read the remaining items of the consent agenda. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held February 23rd, 2015, and the special meeting held March 2nd, 2015. Item B is the adoption of a resolution proclaiming March 2015 as Parenting Month in the city of Ferndale. Item D is the approval of the Ferndale Dream Cruise sponsorship agreement between the City of Ferndale and Team Detroit LLC as agent for Ford Motor Company. Item E is the approval of a special event permit for the 2015 Ferndale Pride on Saturday, May 30th, 2015, from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. as presented in the special event summary. Item F is the approval of a special event permit for the 2015 Rainbow Run 5K and 2K on Saturday, May 30th, 2015, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Item G is approval of a special event permit for the 2015 Relay for Life of Ferndale on June 13th, 2015, from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Item H is the approval to pay the Oakway Mutual Aid Association dues invoice of $5,000 to be paid from our membership and dues account. Item I is the approval to pay the EMU staff and command invoice for $3,000 to be paid from the Fire Department Education account. Item J is the approval to pay the B&B Truck Fire Division invoices for platform aerial ladder repairs, totaling $6,969.42 to be paid from the motor pool. And finally, item K is the approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the city manager's office, subject to the review of the council finance committee. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda?
Your Honor, I have two things. One is a clarification point. We are pulling item 6D. We are not approving that, but you read it. So I just want to make sure we're clear.
Oh, I did, didn't I? And I didn't read C, didn't I? So let me read C. That's correct. So thank you. We keep mixing those two up.
I'm sorry. You said 6E?
No,
D. D. Okay.
D we are going to do, and let me read that now because I didn't read it, correct? Approval of the Ferndale Dream Crew sponsorship agreement? That's the, no?
That's the one that's being tabled.
That's being tabled. That one is being tabled. I'll get this straight. And we are doing item C, and let me read that. The approval of the 2015 Dream Cruise Rock and Live Entertainment Performance Agreement and the authorization for the mayor to sign it. Are you all confused enough yet? C, yes. D, no. All right.
So the second point is I'd like to read the proclamation relating to Parenting Awareness Month.
Please do, but I need a motion and a second.
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
All right, moved by Martin and supported by Polika. All right, Councilman Martin.
Thank you. This is a resolution that was submitted both by a resident in the city as well as supported by Ferndale Youth Assistance. So at a regular meeting of City Council, the City of Ferndale, the following resolution was moved by Councilmember Martin and supported. March is Parenting Awareness Month in the state of Michigan, and Parenting Awareness Month celebrates people who are raising children, and Parenting Awareness Month seeks to draw public attention to the critical importance of parenting in helping children to become healthy, caring, and contributing citizens. Parenting Awareness Month seeks to promote education and resources for developing parenting skills throughout the year, and Parenting Awareness Month encourages the development of local parent networks. Parenting Awareness Month encourages everyone to participate in the lives of all our children. And now therefore be resolved that the City of Ferndale, the Ferndale City Council declares March 2014 as Parenting Awareness Month in the City of Ferndale. And in support of that, this is also recognized by the state. And if folks are out there looking for parenting resources, you can call Parenting Awareness Michigan at 1-800-968-4968.
Very good. Other discussion on the consent agenda, either by council or anyone in the public?
No, but the resident who submitted is here. I'd like to be able to present it.
Please do, yes.
Want to come out?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Martin. Any other last discussion on the consent agenda? If not, Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Polika?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon? Martin?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Moving on now to the regular agenda, item A is the consideration to appoint Adam Steinman to the Provisional Library Board. Is Adam here? Yes, there's Adam. Come on up so we can embarrass you for a minute, and thank you. Yeah, come on up. Why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself?
I'm Adam Steinman. I am a trained physics major and somehow found myself in engineering for an automotive supplier. It's been a fun journey getting there, but I also have a creative mind, and in this last year and a half, I've been helping the Ferndale Library through the Friends of the Ferndale Library, which is a great nonprofit that helps support the library and its functions. If you haven't heard of it, you can get a family membership for $20, and it really helps the library a lot. I've been looking to use my unique talents and experience and knowledge of the way things are done in the corporate world to help the library and maybe streamline some of those processes and offer some solutions to them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me.
Period of transition.
Yeah, I would just note this was caused by a vacancy in the board. Tiffany Gagne, who has served on the board for a number of years, has stepped off, and so thank you very much for your willingness to serve our library.
My pleasure.
Much appreciated.
I move to confirm the appointment of Adam Steinman to the Provisional Library Board for the Ferndale Area District Library.
Support.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The appointment is confirmed.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, sir. I know you'll enjoy it. We have a great board. All right, the next item of business is the consideration to appoint Michael Stedeman to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a term ending December 31st, 2017. And is Michael here? Don't see him. All right. But Council, you have his information in your packet.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions?
Nope. I actually serve on the BZA, and unfortunately, I've not had the opportunity to meet Mr. Steidemann, but look forward to meeting him at the first meeting, at his first meeting. So,
well, he went to MSU, so he has a brownie point already for me. Is there a motion?
I make the motion to confirm the appointment of Michael Stedeman to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a term ending December 31st, 2017.
Support.
Oh, he is? Oh, he just didn't, oh, you just got here. There he is. Come on up so we can embarrass you. No, just at the
podium.
Yeah. Just,
Not all the way up here.
didn't mean that literally. Just introduce yourself. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Steidemann. Nice to meet everyone.
What prompted your interest?
I think, I submitted the application maybe about a year ago. Just I'd heard there might be some positions, and I just wanted to help out in the city. So then when it came up again the last couple of weeks, I just sort of started talking to people, and
Excellent.
We're here now.
Well, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for your willingness to serve.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, wait, a motion would be in order.
I made the motion.
Oh, you made the motion.
Seconded it.
And you seconded it. There you go. Moved by Polika and supported by Martin. Any discussion? Thank you again. Martin?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That appointment is adopted. Moving on now, we've moved up item F to this point in the agenda. I think Councilman Polika requested that. Consideration to purchase playground equipment for Garbett Park, which is why that picture is up on the screen, I assume. And Lloyd, are you going to introduce this item?
I will be happy to.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to present this project for council's consideration. As council is aware, during the 2014-15 budget, council provided funds for a new play structure. This has been earmarked for Garbett Park, and after careful consideration by the Park and Rec Commission, it's here for your consideration. As you can see, there's a number of exciting play areas that have been proposed. DPW will do site work as soon as the snow is melted, which I'm predicting will be at the end of this week, beginning of next. We will be preparing the site 75-foot approximately square. We'll be excavating the dirt, providing an area for a suitable fall zone. The proposal before you does include installation by the professionals. It is expected to be delivered to the DPW yard if approved by council by the beginning of April and installed by the end of April. And so we have a very aggressive timeline to get this play structure in and its features. Tonight, we have Matt Campanelli from Sinclair Recreation, which is the local representation from Game Time. And Matt, if you'd like to give a short overview.
Well, Mayor, Council, my name is Matt Campanello with Sinclair Recreation, and I worked with Lloyd on putting this proposal together that would definitely enhance Garbett Park. We looked to provide a lot of the things, and after meeting with the Parks and Rec Commission and had some discussion, we did make some modifications. We've included a nice area over to the left side there. You'll see the small little area that's appropriate for 2 to 5 age appropriate children. It has a lot of different activities as far as climbing, a little bit of overhead balance and sliding. We also included a larger structure in the forefront that would be for 5 to 12 age appropriate children, which has the full gamut of activities from your sliding, your climbing, your brachiating, which is your monkey bars, your overhead, as well as some motion and some spinning. And we also complemented it with adding a 2-bay swing with some belt seats. One of the swings will be what we call a 0G ADA accessible swing seat, as well as including a tire swing for multi-rotational and multi-users as far as that. So it's a pleasure to be able to put this proposal together, and I hope if you have any questions or need any other information, I'd be happy to provide it.
Is there only one game there that's ADA accessible?
Only one what? Swing?
One swing?
Yes. And there is only one swing, but that is something that we can change out because obviously each swing, there's 2 bays that can accommodate 4 different swings. So you have the opportunity, if you want to, you can do 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you can, intermix or change. We did not include any enclosed tot seats because there was already an existing frame that did have the smaller swing frame for the, the younger users that need to be swung by a supervision.
Okay.
I have a clarification
questions.
question more for Lloyd.
Sure.
Do we have a sense of what the current summer usage of Garbutt Park is?
I don't have any attendance numbers, but certainly I can tell you from a maintenance standpoint, it's heavily used.
Okay.
The DPW is in there at the beginning of every week in the summer, and there's obviously been a lot of activity.
How was Garbutt chosen? Was it through, did the panel have any?
Garbutt was earmarked because the play structure there has reached its end of life and potentially could be hazardous. In fact, whether or not council approves this item, the structure will be coming down very soon.
Okay.
And what's the foundation of the playground site? Is that wood chip?
It is a engineered wood fiber. It's a certified fall zone material, and it will be easily maintained by the Public Works in the future.
Okay, thank you.
And also, as noted, it is considered ADA accessible as far as the surfacing, and we hope to be able to use the existing pathways around it as far as trying to position this playground area so it would abut it, so then it's very easily traversed from an area, from a mobility device to be able to get to and into the playground area.
If I may elaborate on that, the current crushed stone path has been overgrown and not maintained. We will be maintaining that. In addition, now that Public Works can do asphalt and concrete work in-house, we will be enhancing that accessibility from both sides of the park to lead people and have a suitable surface for them to also enter the play area.
Just one final question.
Please.
But the fiber needs to be replaced every year, right, at the conclusion of winter?
What will happen is, most likely it'll be spring, but what will happen, and this fall zone material is also included in the price that's presented to council. What will happen is probably every spring, typically what you do is there's a foot required, and we will excavate the area. Public Works is going to do a lot of site prep prior to the installation of the structures. We're going to be excavating a foot down, filling it with the fiber, the engineered wood fiber, but we'll also place marks on the play structure that will indicate to us when it needs to be replenished. And it typically is perhaps once or twice a year. Mostly what has to happen is as children play in it, there are certain areas that will become wore down, and then you more or less have to rake it and re-level it.
And as an item of note, we did, on a game time playground, you will have surfacing indicators on all the uprights, so it's something that easy visual to realize where it is, where it needs to be for maintenance. And also we included some wear mats to put under those areas that normally get kicked out, such as the swing. So in essence then, instead of getting the trenches, which also affects accessibility, you then also allow it to make sure that it doesn't get kicked out. So that will help as far as that maintenance.
And just one more clarification. If I get the document enclosed, has this date on it of 2010, does that mean the specifications are all still current?
The specifications are current. What you're looking at is basically a template that was presented to U.S. Communities. U.S. Communities is a nationwide organization that basically will guarantee to us the prices represented to Ferndale are the lowest nationwide.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What's council's pleasure?
We also have a Park and Rec member that would like to address.
Oh, that would be great. Yes.
And the Dales Neighborhood Group?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Everett Kaiser. I'm serving on the Parks and Rec Board and also on the Dales Neighborhood Association. And I just wanted to say I'm thrilled to see such a great proposal put forward today. Lloyd and Matt did a really bang up job on this, and I think it's fantastic. I also want to say that Garbutt is long since been one of the parks that's needed a new structure for many, many years. I'm glad to see it being replaced. And then I'm also happy to see that attention is being paid to our parks and not just our downtown, that our kids have a place to play as well as the grown-ups. So thank you for considering this.
Thank you, and thanks for serving on that board as well.
And it's just a final note for the folks at home. I can cycle through this and show some other pictures, I thought. I apologize.
Oh, maybe not.
There's only a couple of slides.
It doesn't like you, Lloyd. I don't think it's in.
There it is. Yeah, that changed it. Yeah.
That was basically it. The next picture after this, Joe, will just show the play area fall zone. And at 75 feet square, may have to be adjusted on site where the existing play structure is, may not quite be large enough for a number of components that are going to be installed. So we're going to adjust it to the site at Garbert. But in addition to this, you'll see a lot of other work being done in the park the coming months. But this is our first big project that we're going to hit very hard as soon as the weather cooperates. Thank you.
Good. Thanks,
I do have one more question. Can we go back to the last slide with the picture of the playground? Right there. So, no, is there one after that? Or
Yes.
is that the last one?
There was one more there.
Okay, so it could just be a conceptual picture, but is everything that close together, and does it meet the clearance requirements
It
for the
does.
risk management? for
The
swing
final
and-
slide for the layout,
Yeah.
the yellow area around each play structure is the appropriate fall zone.
Okay.
And that's what the overlay is for, and it will definitely be large enough.
Great, thank you.
Very nice. What is council's pleasure on this item?
Well, I just wanted to
Oh.
make a couple of comments. Councilman Martin had wondered, what the usage was of Garbett Park, and as Lloyd expressed, the equipment is pretty much falling apart. So it's kind of hard to assess what the usage is right now, but I can tell you that a number of residents from that area have repeatedly contacted us saying that we need to do something about that equipment. So there are people that need to use that park. And once we install this equipment, I think you'll see a lot of usage.
Is there a motion?
I think Joel, our Parks and Rec Director, wants to say something.
I just can't get a motion.
Sorry. I was just going to echo what Councilman Polika said about the usage at Garbett. We take park reservations in our department, and we do have a fair amount of picnics that people call and reserve Garbett Park for picnics, and I think this will only increase that. There's a restroom there, and it is a great place for picnics. I think this will only enhance that this summer, so we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, I make the motion to approve the purchase of new playground equipment for Garbett Park from Game Time, care of Sinclair Recreations, at a cost of $99,965, and that the expenses be charged to the General Fund Park Improvements 101-441-974.110.
Support.
Moved by Polika, supported by Lennon. All right. Now, conversations or comments are still waiting after that, although we may have had them all. I mean, I guess I would just say I agree that Garbett Park needed updating, but I would also say most of our parks do. We have, just by financial necessity, let our parks get down to the point where many of the features are at or past their useful life. We're doing the best that we can out of the general fund as a city, and that's why we're moving ahead with this project. But I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that in the infrastructure bond proposal in May does include almost $2 million that we would use to upgrade the remainder of the park and do these sort of things and other improvements throughout the parks, because they really all do need some kind of improvement. But this was certainly a glaring example of what's needed, so I'm certainly supportive. Any final questions or comments?
No, I'm supportive as well, and my usage question wasn't designed to be anything other than to kind of set the stage for this, and I certainly would expect a structure like this would draw more use and interest in the park, and so I think that's important. So I'm supportive.
All right. Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Martin,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
Piana,
Yes.
Lennon,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Appreciate it. Next item is item C, the consideration to extend the exclusive negotiating rights agreement with 360 LLC. Derek, are you going to introduce that item?
And before Derek does introduce that item, I'd like to remind council that our office did receive a statement from the Downtown Development Authority regarding downtown development, and I did submit that to council prior to the meeting. That will be included in the packet tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Derek.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think at this point, we all know what is in front of Council. Over the last year, Council and the city staff has investigated the potential for a development project in the downtown, and in an effort to make a determination if that project meets the goals and objectives of both the city's master land use plan, the DDA's goals and strategies for redevelopment of the downtown, and potentially helped with some of the real and perceived parking issues that are going on in the downtown right now. So to do that, Council approved an exclusive negotiating rights agreement with a unique development group that included a local business person, entrepreneur, who had an idea for a campus in the downtown and wanted to take that year to investigate it with both the DDA, the City Council, and staff. That agreement is coming close to expiration at the end of the month. The developer has, in accordance with the agreement, submitted language requesting a one-year extension to continue those conversations. That has been included in your packet, and it is the only thing that is actually up for consideration at this point in relationship to the project. So recently, the city's parking team presented a parking study related to both the existing conditions of the parking system and what would be necessary to support the development as proposed square footage-wise. Also, the development team appeared before council at a special meeting to present the concepts for the project and the reasons why they believe the agreement should be extended for additional consideration. That agreement has been included in your packet, and obviously we are here to answer any questions you may have.
So, does anyone have any questions or comments for Derek or council? No discussion at all. Any discussion on this item?
No, I thought you were calling for questions. I'm sorry.
Questions, comments, discussion. I'm sorry.
I have a few thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care, Melanie. Do you want to go in the no?
Do you want me to?
It doesn't matter. I'll be happy to.
Well, I'm sorry. Did we want to let audience members speak
I think what I'll do is
first?
I'll give council an opportunity to give their initial comments and thoughts, and then I'll open it up to the audience, any additional audience members that are here that want to speak to this, and then we'll go back to council for some kind of decision. How's that?
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll start out by first thanking Derek and his team, as well as the folks who brought the proposal to us a year ago to take a look at it. I think entering into the exclusivity agreement a year ago to have thoughtful deliberation about the nature of this project and moving into this project was the absolute right thing to do. I'm very pleased with the deliberate way in which we've proceeded over the course of the last year. It's a big project. It's asking a lot from a lot of different segments, and I think that it takes time to sift through the facts and see where folks are comfortable and if the project is viable for Ferndale as it exists in its current form. That being said, I personally am not going to be supportive of extending the NRA because I just think at this time and where we're at, I don't want to commit another year to conversation about a project that I don't think is quite there yet. So.
Well, I have to agree with Councilman Martin on that one, too. I'm not in favor of extending it. And there'll be no victory, and there'll be no defeat for anybody on this. It's unfortunate the way it goes. And I'm not akin to not voting for putting something down there. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to commit another year, like the Councilman Martin had suggested, to this particular project. So I will not be supporting it.
Well, I'd like to start off expressing what we've learned and what we've heard over the last year, which was part of this agreement. It was to investigate worthiness and the impact of this project on the downtown. And what I've learned and what I've heard really is the concerns about impact on residents facing potential buildings. I appreciate all the businesses who had private conversations with me and shared their fears and concerns and impacted their businesses during the construction process, which was not defined, but that is something that we need to address. But also about hearing their hopes and dreams after a building was constructed, depending on what was in it, residence or office, new workers. And I also appreciate the people who expressed support for development in the downtown. We had many people come out and say they supported it. We had downtown business owners who came to council, and I wanted to thank them. And I also wanted to thank those who expressed their thoughts and opinions privately to each of us and to all of city staff. But for me, I feel like the development group put a best foot forward this past year. But I feel at this point, I feel like we need to take a step back and find a development partner that can perhaps scale and be a little bit more flexible. That is not all or nothing. An approach to developing the downtown, and perhaps find an architectural team that can better scale to Ferndale's unique characters of what we're looking for. And I appreciate the developer's commitment to helping work through that. And by going through this negotiation process, we were able to find that out. So for me, I will not be supporting the movement forward of the agreement, but I also want to express what's next, what happens next. And really, the conversation continues. We still need to figure out how to best solve our peak parking issues that the business owners have expressed that is a pain point for them in terms of getting customers to their businesses in the downtown. We need to actually address and solve the daytime parking vacancy. We have, all of our parking lots are on average 50% vacant during the day. That's not a good thing for our downtown either. I think we need to have some honest conversations with the DDA, how to best achieve the DDA's downtown development goals, which I think were muted throughout this conversation over the past year. And their goals have always been more office space, mixed-use development, and residential in the downtown. And I think we have disagreement on how best to achieve those goals going forward. And I also think we need to have a better, more direct conversation of how to achieve equity and inclusiveness in development for our downtown. So how do we make sure that we are having development projects where all levels of income can partake in this type of housing. So for me, these conversations have to continue. We have issues to solve, we have goals to achieve, and we have progress to make. And how best do we do that is still on the table. That still needs to be addressed. And the parking lots will still need to be addressed for more parking on either one or both at some place and time in the very near future. So for me, that is what's next. And I also have to say, I have to express some disappointment with the DDA. We received a statement from the DDA about how they would like to move, or their position on the 360 project, and which is sort of a non-position at this point in time, my point of view. And I'm disappointed about that, given that many businesses came out and expressed support who weren't associated with the DDA. And so for me, I go back to the the muted position of the DDA on standing up for its vision and goals, which I learned about even as I just moved into Ferndale before I was involved, and how I was a volunteer in the DDA for 5 years. And it was taught to me by the business owners prior to my volunteering on the DDA where we were going in the downtown. So again, we have difficult conversations to have. How do we achieve these goals? How do we solve these issues? And how do we do that as a partnership going forward? So for me, that is what's next, and I look forward to the recommendations about how we strengthen this partnership. And I also recommend that we put as part of our conversations, explain the development process for the downtown. Because what I'm hearing from some of our residents and business owners, it's in our zoning ordinance to do mixed use and development. Our policies are in place, our regulations are in place, and private property owners can build mixed use development with office and residential. It's going to happen somewhere on other properties, not just the city-owned properties. So we need to come together and figure out how best to approach that going forward, as development has, interest in our city has increased tremendously. So the conversation continues.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that I agree with all of my fellow council members. I don't want to have to repeat anything, but I will say that I saw this project as creating an opportunity of possibilities from day one. Didn't want to put out a lot of negative ideas, a lot of negative thoughts on it, although privately I did have a lot of issues with the project over the past year. I wanted to make sure that the project tried to move forward without any issues. But ultimately, it came to this point, and it has not met my expectation. So I'm with my fellow council members who will not be supporting an extension. But I think that we now have what we've gone through over the past year has given us a lot of insight. This project is something that we have not experienced in Ferndale since probably Credit Union 1 building next door. So we've learned a lot, and I think we have the opportunity now to take what we've learned and improve it with whatever project may come along down the road.
Very good. Well, this is council's, excuse me, this is council's first opportunity to publicly debate this, and so I didn't know exactly where the feeling would go tonight, but it looks like we have all arrived at a similar position. I will just say for myself, you know, this was always an ambitious project. We knew from the beginning that this was an ambitious project. It was ambitious because it was about more than just parking. And I think sometimes over the course of the last year, we haven't always made that point clear enough. We know there's a parking issue downtown, but this was really, as Councilwoman Piana and others has said, this was an opportunity not only to address our parking, but to address our long-stated goals of increasing density downtown, foot traffic during the day with residents and businesses that could help support retail. I looked at this, at least in the plans that we had put in place before, as something that could support retail. So it was ironic that our retailers were some of the most adamant opposed to it, and that is not a position that works very well going forward. It's going to be critical as we move forward that we put something together that has more buy-in across the community. My assumption is that something does need to come next. I'm not of the mind, and I know there are a few people at least that think we should just do nothing, but I don't think doing nothing is an option. Change is already coming to our downtown, and I think, Melanie, you said very well, private developers are going to be doing this whether we do it or not, and it's whether or not we're going to manage that change. So I do think that some type of project is going to be necessary. But I want to say this. I really do appreciate everyone's passion and comments over the last year, both pro and con. I think it just demonstrates that this is a town of people who care a heck of a lot about their city. They're committed and invested here, and that's how I read that passion. So I didn't take any of it personally. I also appreciate the changes that the developers made. I think the development team did a really good job of listening to people and trying to modify their plan to meet those needs. They scaled it back. They made a lot of changes that were a direct result of the input that they heard. Ultimately, I agree with Councilman Polika that it still doesn't quite meet my expectation, especially the Withington part of the project, I think is still not what we think of as Ferndale. I made a commitment when we stood out there at the town hall forums last year that we wouldn't do anything that didn't meet the character and the uniqueness of Ferndale. And I don't think we hit it, especially on the Withington lot. More so on the Troy lot development, I thought was more in keeping with Ferndale, but I don't think Withington hit it. So going forward, I still believe that we need to do something. I'm not sure what that is. We have to regroup and figure that out. I'm going to be asking our staff to put a team together that identifies what kind of project should be next. And I've already reached out to the new chair of the board of the DDA to help us with that, because the DDA has to be a proactive partner with us. It has been an awkward relationship between the city and the DDA on this project for the past year, and if we're going to be successful in the future, then our downtown business owners all of them need to have a voice, our residents need to have a voice, and we'll figure out how to put something together that does that. And mostly it has to be something that fits Ferndale, and not even just design-wise, because we weren't that far along in the designs, but also scale-wise and magnitude-wise, something that fits Ferndale. I'm sure that means a more phased approach, and I would imagine that will be part of what happens going forward. So finally, I would just say, not every project works out, especially bold and ambitious ones like this, but I think there was much value in the effort. We had a community conversation this year, often contentious and loud, but always interesting. That was more than just about parking. It's time that we talked about what does growth in our city look like? What kind of growth can we accommodate here? What do our downtown business owners need? And we began that conversation. I think we also have a much better indication of what our parking needs are. That parking study for me was very eye-opening. I don't disagree with the gentleman who said it was, at least on paper, we have less of an issue than we think we have. Now, perception is reality, but that document is going to give us a real starting point for figuring out what makes sense from a parking perspective. So for all of those reasons, I think it was worth the effort. I appreciate the staff's time, and Derek Delacourt in particular, who really helped lead and drive this project. I appreciate all of the hours that you put into this. I know they're not here tonight, but Jake Siegel and his 360 team did a very responsive and proactive job of trying to meet our needs, and this is through no fault of their own that I'm also going to vote not to extend the NRA this evening. I did offer, by the way, if there's anyone from the audience that would like to address council on this issue, that this would be an appropriate time, so please feel free to do that.
I'm Stephen Deasy. I live at 2207 Pinecrest.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in Ferndale for 6 years. I live in a home that I bought here in Ferndale for the past 2. I'm an engineer. I'm a performing songwriter, proud member of American Federation of Musicians Local 1000, Traveling Musicians Union. I want to talk about this issue mainly because the discussion still has to go forward. And I came here from New England. I lived in Pittsburgh before that. And I don't think anybody that's lived here all their lives knows exactly how horrible Detroit suburbs are, or how difficult it is to find a town worth living in. And what makes this town worth living in? Economic diversity, racial diversity, ethnic diversity, It attracts the creative class. It's welcoming to LGBT community. And I bought my house. My 2 adult daughters are just starting out in life. They rent a house on Breckenridge right around the corner from me. I'm not really interested. I appreciate all the thought that went into this and all of the study and the concerns about the future of the city. But I located here because it's not Royal Joke. It's Ferndale, and Ferndale's character must be preserved in anything that you consider going forward. And part of that is a town that my adult daughters can afford to live in. So I'm not really in favor of gentrification. When Starbucks moves into Ferndale, that's probably time to move out. If Starbucks moves in and drives Red Hook out, it's definitely time to move out. So the reason why local businesses would be opposed to it is fear, because when you talk about a development that looks like Birmingham or looks like Royal Oak, I'm not going to be able to afford to continue to be doing a business in Ferndale, and it's going to look like every other gentrified piece of crap city in the state of Michigan. Thanks for all your consideration and the thoughts I heard tonight, and thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Anyone else like to address council? Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tina. I live at 630 Meadowdale here in Ferndale, and I want to take a minute to say I wasn't sure what the outcome of tonight would be, and I'm a relatively new resident here in Ferndale, and really echo the feelings of what brought me to live in this city. And right now I'm feeling very proud of my city council, and am very pleased to hear of the decision to take a few steps back on the 360 project. You know, when I saw the drawings, I mean, I agree. I think that there's a need to be able to have, you know, expansion for our small businesses, that parking, you know, all of these things are very important. But I also think that Ferndale's a cool city, and I'd like to see it stay that way. And that making it have, you know, a unique appeal is extremely important. And I also have to say I'm very excited and surprised about Garbutt Park. I have a 6.5-year-old who I'm frequently worried is going to do something on the play area that might not be the safest. And so I think that there's a lot of very positive things that are happening in the city. And I think the decision to hold off and rethink and come back to the drawing board to come up with something that will really fit and be something that the residents of the city of Ferndale also are very proud of is a wise decision. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council? All right. Seeing none, I guess what I'm hearing is there won't be a motion, right? Is that correct? So we move on to the next item. Item D is the consideration of an application from KDS LLC for a new small winemaker and microbrewer license at 914 Livernois. And who's introducing that item?
I can do that.
You, all right.
KDS LLC is also known as Schramm's Mead, and of course they have a successful location on West 9 Mile, and they would like to open a new facility at 914 Livernois. The microbrewer license and small winemaker license that they are applying for is so that they can have the production facility, and the microbrewer license also permits them to produce a product called Braggots, which is another kind of mead that is different than the one made with honey, so they need the small microbrewer license for that. And Mr. Ken Schramm is in the audience. If we have any
come on up
questions for him.
Yeah, is there anything you'd like to let council know this evening?
It's a pleasure to be before you again this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. We have quite simply outgrown our facility at 327 9 Mile. We have one production line in there, and the demand for our product is such that we could sell pretty much as we can make. We would like to sequentially expand to 2 and then 3 and then 4 and possibly as many as 6 or 7 production lines. We just established a relationship with a distributor on the west side of the state earlier actually last week, and we will seek to increase our distribution to northern Michigan thereafter. Things are going very well for us, and we are tripping over ourselves on days when there is both production and service in the tasting room occurring. So we'd like to move the production off-site and continue to expand. Braggot is a type of mead that's made with barley, and we're not permitted to do that solely with our small winemaker's license. We have to have a microbrewer's license because barley is not permitted on the premises of any winery. That's the reason for the second license application.
There won't be retail sales at this?
Oh, there will be.
Oh, there will be.
We intend to have about 25% of the space set up for retail sales of primarily bottles. Right now, all of the bottles are in the back wall. We don't have any display systems for our wine. We'd like to have those. We'd also like to have display systems for logo ware and glassware and looks, because I wrote a book too.
Would there be sort of in-service,
We're not anticipating having a tasting space there. It will just be for bottle sales.
That's what I'm getting at.
No, the tasting space will stay on 9 Mile.
What is currently at that location?
Shramps Mead.
No, in Livernois.
914 was, it's vacant currently.
It's the old Wide Awake Market, I think. Should be right around that area.
I'm not sure what the name of the grocery outlet was.
Wide Awake Market.
Wide Awake.
That's what it was, Wide Awake.
Yes.
That's what I was.
And there was.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Briefly, there was a gym and a nurse's aid training facility, I believe, in that building, but it's vacant now.
Right. I thought that was the property. Thank you. All right, does anyone have any questions?
You moved into your current storefront 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's pretty great that in 2 years you already have to expand.
Yes. It is. We are extremely pleased, and we are eager to stay in Ferndale. We pretty much limited our search to Ferndale facilities, and Mr. Perlman was able to offer us the space that we're applying for right now, and it looks like it will work very well for us.
All right. So if I may, I have a comment and a question to the chair.
Yes.
First, thank you for your continued investment to Ferndale. I think you got a great product, and we're thrilled you're here. The nature of the building on Livernois, though, and your business operations there, the first question I would have is, will it impact, and I don't know from a shipping perspective what you're going to do, kind of the flow of traffic or the mechanics of how that works on the street on Livernois, or do you anticipate any great increase in traffic there?
We don't anticipate it, and we are hoping that it will be less of an imposition on the residents in the area around 914 Livernois than it is currently when we take deliveries at our location at 327 9 Mile.
Okay.
That's a very narrow alley going behind those stores there, and trucks have a hard time getting in and out. They will be able to back right in, and there is an overhead door at the rear of the 914 Livernois location that we'll be able to use. And as long as we stick with lift gate deliveries, which is how we get our deliveries right now, we don't anticipate that there will be significant disruption to traffic.
Okay. And through the production process, and this is just out of my own ignorance, are there any other considerations for neighbors or surrounding properties with regards to discharge of a smell or anything in that process that would be different than currently exists today in the neighborhood?
The only exhaust that we anticipate is carbon dioxide from the fermentations. We haven't heard anything from the people that abut us about any smells from our current facility.
Okay.
And I don't anticipate any other problems.
All right, thanks.
Other questions?
Just praise, thank you for taking over a vacant building.
Likewise, thank you for the exemplary business climate in the city of Ferndale.
Yes, thank you for staying.
A motion would be in order.
I move that recommend the MLCC approval of the request from KDS LLC for small winemaker and microbrewer licenses to be located at 914 Livernois, Ferndale, Oakland County, Michigan.
Support.
Moved by Lennon and supported by Martin. All right. Any other comments or questions, thoughts from council? All right. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Polika,
Yes.
Piana,
Yes.
Lennon,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted.
Mayor Coulter, if I may be so bold as to ask if you could send a copy of that resolution to either of our business addresses, we'd just love to have one on file, please.
Okay, and so,
I will
Marty, can we
take
make
care
sure
of that
that
in the morning.
happens?
Thank you very
Awesome,
kindly.
thank you. Happy to do that. All right, the next item of business is a consideration to set 4 public hearings on March 23rd, 2015 for DNR grants for improvements at Harding Park and Martin Road Park. Jill, you want to introduce that item?
Yes, definitely. As you know, last year we submitted 2 DNR grants to the Trust Fund Grant Program and found out late last year that we were unfortunately unsuccessful. So the intent this year is to reapply those same 2 applications to not only the Trust Fund Grant Program, but also the Land and Water Conservation Fund. After consulting with our grant coordinator recently, it was her recommendation that, to increase our chances of success, to apply to both programs. Each application for both parks, Martin Road and Harding, each application includes a updated play structure. Both parks in recent years have had play structures that have been removed due to being outdated and unsafe. And they will also include walking paths throughout the park that will increase not only accessibility to the play structure, but also other amenities in the park, such as restrooms, soccer fields, baseball fields, and such. So as a part of the requirements to apply, a public hearing needs to be set for each application. That is why we're here tonight.
If I may, through the chair, I just have a technical question. There's 4 recommended actions on the motions, or this is the first 2, they look very similar?
It's different grant.
Okay, so can we do this in one motion, or do we need to do 4 separate motions?
Through the chair, you know, to the extent that there's consensus on council, you could combine it as one motion addressing scheduling 4 public hearings, 2 for each park, for each respective grant application.
All right. Then I'd like to move to set a public hearing for the date of March 23rd, 2015 at 7 p.m. to take comments regarding the submittal of Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for improvements in Harding Park, as well as a public hearing date of March 23rd, 2015 at 7 p.m. to take comments regarding the submittal of Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for improvements at Martin Road Park, and to set a public hearing for the date of March 23rd, 2015 at 7 p.m. to take comments regarding the submittal of the Department of Natural Resources Land and Water Conservation Fund for improvements at Harding Park, and that we set a public hearing on March 23rd, 2015 at 7 p.m. to take comments regarding submittal of the Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for improvements at Martin Road Park.
Support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Polika. Is there discussion on this item?
No, I wish you well on this year's grant.
Yeah, better luck this year, but we think we got a good chance this year, right?
Whatever we can do to support that process. I know Councilman Pollock is very involved, but please just let us know either here or through the foundation or however we can help.
Will do, definitely, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Marnie, would you call the roll?
Councilmembers Piana,
Yes.
Lennon, Martin,
Yes.
Polika,
Yes.
and Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Now, moving on to the final item, item G is the consideration of a purchase agreement for 803 East Breckenridge. Derek, is that you?
Officially my second time here in front of you regarding this property, and I think the third time the city's dealt with it. 803 Breckenridge, East Breckenridge is a vacant piece of industrially zoned property on the north side of Breckenridge between Hilton and the railroad tracks. If council remembers, or those of you who were here at the time a couple of years ago, we had 2 interested parties in the purchase of the property. It sits vacant, but it is surrounded by other industrial development. At the time, it was surrounded by Madison Heights Glass on one side and Allied Printing on the other. Both parties were interested, and council did make a motion to direct staff to go forward with Allied Printing on the sale of the property to allow for what they believed at the time was going to be an expansion of their operations and parking in that direction. Subsequent to that, Allied found other options for the expansion of their operations and were no longer needed the property. We went back to Madison Heights Glass. Spoke with them recently, asked them if they were still interested in the property. They are, even more so than before. They've acquired another piece of property directly adjacent to it. I think there's a map in the packet that shows all the property Madison Heights Glass owns right around it. It makes perfect sense to sell it to them at this time to allow them to expand their operations. They do have plans ready to submit for a rather significant expansion of their building and operations within the city. So we look forward to seeing those, and staff does recommend that the city move forward with the sale of the property to Madison Heights Glass at this time.
I may have asked this before, but the $12,500, is that just going to the sales fund, or do we allocate that for something?
Right now, there's just a line item in the budget that goes for the sale of property. We have discussed, and I think it is probably worth further discussion, that we're going to have more and more of these, I think, come forward in the short term. What exactly it is, if the city wants to set that out for some type of special economic development or reinvestment, or if it just funnels back to the general fund like it does now. So there is no special line item for it currently.
So, okay.
Yeah, originally, it would have come from the general fund when we purchased the property.
Yeah, right. But I like the concept, and this is just a point for further discussion. Nothing I want to take action on or delve into today, but I think it would be nice that since we are doing more of these in the future, we expect or suspect that we find a way, since it wasn't budgeted for, that we can use this for special projects, whether it be park something to improve the neighborhood that we're selling the property in, but something, I think this is an opportunity to target some capital and stuff that may have fallen off the table, because obviously we're trying to be good stewards of the tax revenue we have.
I understand, and we'll take a look at that with the finance director and city manager's office before we come back again.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Questions, comments?
Just one.
Motion.
Who makes the determination of how much the property is worth? Do we go out to get it appraised by a certain person, or do we just count on what the county tells us that it's being appraised at?
Normally both. We don't usually do a full appraisal unless it's a very large piece of property. In this instance, when we originally sold it or originally discussed it with Allied and Madison Heights Glass, we had a broker's valuation of the property done. It's kind of a short form appraisal, and then we compare that to make sure it's consistent with the assessed value or the state equalized value of the property. This value is still based on that study from 2 years ago. And staff is recommending staying with it. Madison Heights Glass was a very good partner at the time, and very disappointed they didn't get it then. They had made the original offer, and based on that, staff is still recommending we stay with the value that was set at that time.
I move that City Council approves the sale of 803 East Breckenridge to Madison Heights Glass for the amount of $12,500 and authorizes the mayor and clerk's office to execute the purchase agreement.
Support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Polika. Any additional comments or questions on this item? Marnie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Martin?
Yes.
Polka?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Thanks, Derek. All right, moving on now to call to council. Police Chief Collins, anything for the good of the community this evening? Nothing this evening. All right. Fire Chief Sullivan, anything for the good of the community this evening?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
All right. Derek, anything else from community and economic development?
Nothing else, sir.
All right. Kara, anything from community engagement perspective? Wow. All right. Jill, anything from the recreation department this evening?
Just a couple quick announcements, couple events coming up. This Thursday is our senior St. Pat's lunch. So we still have a few spaces available. If anyone out there listening is interested in attending, includes lunch. We have horse races each year, and new this year we are getting a bagpiper for some entertainment. So we're looking forward to a fun afternoon. Coming up at the end of the month on March 28th is our annual egg hunt at the Kulik Center. We are also adding a breakfast with Bunny this year as well, starting at 8 a.m. Information on both of those events are ferndalemi.gov. That is it.
Great.
Is it corned beef for lunch?
It is corned beef.
Oh, excellent.
55 and
Christine,
older.
I know you didn't have anything for presentation, but anything from the DDA perspective this evening?
Just want to remind everyone that we have our Ferndale DDA Board of Directors meeting this Thursday at 9 a.m. at the DDA office. Also, I just want to wish everybody a happy St. Patty's Day, and please have fun, but be safe out there. Thanks.
Well said. Thank you. Lloyd, anything from DPW this evening? All right. Marnie, anything from the clerk's office?
Yes, I just want to make an announcement that we do have AV applications available for the May 5th election. We have sent out the 800-plus that we have on our permanent AV list, and they are available for anyone who meets one of the 6 statutory reasons for requesting an absentee ballot. They can just contact us or come up to City Hall. We expect to have ballots available by March 23rd, and we'll be getting those in the mail at that time.
Thank you very much. Joe, anything for the city manager's office?
To coincide with that statement, we are also continuing to remind the public that we are continually updating the website that has a page that provides information for voters for the 2 ballot proposals that will be on the May 5th election. As a reminder, that website is www.ferndalemI.gov/government. We continue to populate and update the information every week, so keep checking back frequently for more information, more charts. Also, we will be having take-home ballot materials that could be available at city buildings, likely by the end of next week. There'll be some brochures for just public information. Those will be available at City Hall and other city buildings. We will also be announcing on city media 2 public information town halls that we will be promoting in April. The first one is scheduled for April 7th between 7 and 9 at the Kula Community Center. The second one will be scheduled for Wednesday, April 29th between 7 and 9 at City Hall Council Chambers.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Dan, anything from the legal world this
Nothing
evening?
tonight, Your Honor.
All right. Councilman Martin.
Just one thing, the Ferndale Arts and Culture Commission will be hosting its second kickoff of the art that they show here in City Hall this Thursday from 6 to 8. I want to thank Callie Blake, who is the previous artist, and her work is down now, but she had just a great showing. The next artist's name is Taurus Burns, and his work will be on display in City Hall beginning Thursday, and again from 6 to 8 will be an opening reception, so I encourage everyone to attend.
Yes.
And the art will be for sale as well.
Very good. Councilman Lennon.
I have nothing tonight.
Nothing to say. All right. Councilman Pollica.
Going to throw on my Ferndale Community Foundation hat and announce that Saturday, May 16th, yes, in 2 months, 9 a.m. is Clean the Ferndale Up. The foundation is partnering again with the city, DPW, and this year we are going to be returning to the parks to clean up our parks for the springtime, for the summer, picking up debris, Lloyd is going to be going to have some assignments for doing some light construction work, maybe even planting some trees and doing some play structure removal, ice rink removal. And we are also partnering with SACRA this year. So people who might not be able to come to help clean the Ferndale up might be able to clean their basements, clean their garages. SACRA is going to be here on that day with large bins for paint, oil, all those hazardous materials that you can't recycle or throw out, you can bring to City Hall that day. So start cleaning your basements, cleaning your garages, get all that stuff together. And SACRA will be here for, like I said, electronics. I'm not sure about styrofoam. I know you can't recycle styrofoam, but I don't know if they're going to accept styrofoam that day. But definitely batteries, oil, paint, and electronics. So again, that's May 16th. It's a Saturday, 9 a.m. That's all I have.
Very good. Councilwoman Piana.
Nothing tonight.
All right. And I have nothing to add as well. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Excuse me. I get to see the following.
Terrible.
What?
Such a nothing.
Backhand, Dan.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
It's a little surprising. You set your piece on that?